To the Crazyhouse World Championship. The match today is very crucial to the outcome of the tournament. We will watch a blitzbullet versus Fumitoks. The two players at the top of the table, and Fumitoks has won all his 5 matches so far. And if he beats blitzbullet, the road is clear to a victory in the candidates. Blitzbullet on his hand, he needs to win this match to have a chance to clinch first place. Let's see if the players are ready. We will watch this from the view of blitzbullet. Who is the rating favorite? But Fumitoks' form has been excellent in this tournament. Very convincing wins so far. So, this is really exciting. Welcome to those of you who are watching. This is Crazyhouse. They will play 10 games, 3-minute thinking time and 2 seconds increment every move. And for those of you who have not watched Crazyhouse before, believe me, this is crazy. Whenever you capture a piece from your opponent, it changes team and color, and you get it in hand, and you can drop it on the board instead of moving one of your own pieces. So it's super crazy, super aggressive, this game. I see that both blitzbullet and Fumitoks are online, so I expect the players to be seated any minute now. If we check the calendar, on Saturday we'll see Zixan versus Master Tan. There's a big chance that I will stream that match as well. And who else is in the run here? Bugzilla is on 59%. Let's see, he's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches, and he's 1-3, 1 draw, and 1 loss. blitzbullet has actually lost 2 matches and drawn 1 against Bugzilla. This is not a surprise. blitzbullet likes his kingside fianchetto, and Fumitoks, I'm sure, has prepared something. The openings have been somewhat of a weakness to blitzbullet. It's not on par with the rest of his game. And apparently this opening line took Fumitoks a bit by surprise. I kind of like this for white. The pawn on c6 is a weakness after knight at e5. And white can just calmly fianchetto his light square bishop and get a nice control here on the king side in front of his king. So the opening stage clearly in favor of blitzbullet. I'm a bit surprised that blitzbullet didn't think about knight e5 earlier, when even a knight sack on f7 would have been interesting. Nice positional advantage here for white. Putting pressure on d5, and the black pawn structure is clearly inferior. Playing c6 would just create a lot of weaknesses on the dark squares, and e6 is even worse. So it seems like black is a little bit behind. One move to consider here is actually knight takes d5. But knight takes, bishop takes, h3 is hanging, so maybe it wasn't any good. White was threatening h6, and he lured the black pawn to g5, which is a rather passive pawn drop. So perhaps just knight e5, when white can be quite happy. I don't like this move. It's way too passive. Why lock in that beautiful bishop on? That was a strange move. And actually this sacrifice here, it's typical of Fumitoks. He sees the opportunity to grab the initiative. The knight was threatening d4 and g3. But maybe this is... Oh, he gave up the queen. Okay, this will be super interesting. White is just trying to force his way through on the dark squares. If black doesn't take, he's just inferior. But what is this? It does look very dangerous. White just wants to grab the bishop and mate somewhere. And this is a bad sign if you need to be passive like this. I would say this is pretty much over, actually. Eunjo Nakamura, with one of his trademark predictions. You got it right in one of the previous matches, I know. 5-5. I predict that actually blitzbullet is winning this match. And maybe even he will win big. Before the game, I was thinking maybe 7-3 blitzbullet. I just want a very, very exciting end to the candidates. So I'm kind of hoping blitzbullet will win this. So where's the mate? I mean, you could just take f8 when you're threatening. Or is there some sort of trick here? Wait. Pawn h7, king takes, knight f6, bishop takes, knight takes f8. Is that something? It sure looks very dangerous, potentially winning. I'm just too lazy to calculate. Pawn h7, king takes, knight f6, bishop takes forced, knight takes. It looked very promising. But on the other hand, I might be wrong. So what's the idea here? Knight takes. And now what? This seems artificial. What is the rook doing on h6? So obviously king takes, knight f6, bishop takes, queen h6, pawn h7 mate. But if you just leave the rook, where is it going? Oh, this is forced mate. I missed this. So a tragic end to the first game here for Fumitoks. Let me just check that line that I mentioned. So this is the position where I suggested pawn h7, king takes, knight f6. It's actually mate in 13. Of course it's mate in 13 or 12. Okay. Let's get back to the game, and we see a pawn sacrifice, and then Fumitoks gives back the pawn. And in an open position like this, nothing special happening, I actually favor Fumitoks. Sorry, blitzbullet. But is there something happening maybe here on d6? I wonder. Simply queen e6 should do it. Queen e6, queen trade, bishop takes. Looks safe for black, doesn't it? But what about pawn d6 now? Was this wise? I don't get it. What on earth is happening here? Pawn d6. This was a super strange decision. Or what am I missing here? You could even contemplate knight d6, king takes, bishop c5. Is that a move? Or is it too aggressive? So black doesn't even take on e7. If black takes the queen, I suppose to take back with the bishop just to get the bishop safe. It's always nice with a rook here on the last rank. Always disturbing your opponent. And with a knight in hand, knight f8 would be great. This is so sharp. I wonder if black is taking e2 or c2. Hello, Hercules. So white isn't really worried about the queen. He's calmly defending g2 and also threatening b8, either with a bishop or probably rook takes. So he's getting the queen back. He's looking super safe. This should be over fairly soon. Yeah, well, bishop g3 was quite okay, I think. There's just no way to defend against queen at d8, I think. No, I wouldn't have taken e2 either. I would probably preferred to take on c2 instead. So a lot of options here. You could, I suppose, go knight f8. And now you don't take the rook, you just leave it. But what is threatening e7 here? So what to do? Fumitoks down to the last 10 seconds. Blitzbullet is fighting for his life. Possibly, I thought maybe queen e7 was more effective. But now the king is heading out on the board. It's bound to get killed here. Surely it's not surviving. No, it's not. 1-1. And I was surprised here in the opening, because I think black was doing fine here after queen e6. Queen e6 and black is actually a lot better. But what was this? Pawn d6. Just inexplicable. And king takes e7 was clearly better, I think. And this is pretty much over. Okay, 1-1. And apparently blitzbullet has prepared this line. They were repeating the same line. And this game black takes on e5. Rather than getting that weak pawn structure. So I suppose bishop c5 threatening knight takes g3 because of the pin. Do you need to play e3 here? That's not what you want to play. I thought maybe it was premature to take on f5 because of this move. Oh, this is risky. This is risky. But where do you take? Do you take on g3 or you could take f2? But blitzbullet is great at calculating risks. Maybe he got the worst position on the board, but he's definitely better on the clock. Black is actually threatening pawn h2 rook g1. which is mate. Oh, but take g3 was impossible due to the pin. Ah, okay, you mean black takes g3, yeah. Absolutely. I suppose you need to take back, but pawn g3, making use of this pin. Is just very, very dangerous. Pawn g3, I think. Knight g3. How's a move like knight at f6? You need to start creating some counter chances here. But that was doing so well on d5. You really don't want to go back. Black is just fine if it takes the queen. Maybe take the queen and bishop f4, threatening mate, threatening to take. Okay, so white took with a knight just to cover here, but a move like this, hitting everywhere. It's just too strong. And black will most likely take e5 if white doesn't play bishop g3. Another option was simply to take with the queen and castle. I expect bishop takes. And white seems pretty well defended though. Not so easy to break through. Just defend all the checks. Maybe pawn f6. He preferred bishop f6. Ouch. So this knight, bishop is picking up the pawn, or now you're even picking it up with check. This is lost for white. And here comes black on the dark squares. The knight is pinned. Absolutely hopeless. Knight check here. Or just clear the heavies. Okay. Fumitoks 2-1. Yeah, knight at e3 looks better, hitting the bishop and the pawn. But the computer likes this, thinks it's fine, but castling was, surely it was a mistake due to bishop c5, when black seems just fine here. And this was very speculative. Lots of possibilities. Take on f2 is certainly a possibility, But also taking on g3 is looking good. And white never quite recovered here. And what is this? So d6 is actually covered here by a bishop check. Interesting sequence. I would look at pawn at d2 just to disrupt the white development. This pawn is a very dangerous piece indeed. Maybe knight e4 to threaten the bishop and also to introduce ideas like queen at e1, rook takes, pawn takes, and with a diagonal hand, white is pretty much mated. He could could run for cover here on d1, but a rook check on the back rank should be decisive. So this is already looking very good for black. Fumitoks in the lead 2-1, but it could very well have been the other way around. That was a long think. Is this possible to check on c1? Check on c1 and then a rook on d1. Maybe I'm hallucinating, but white only has queens to interpose with, so black is getting back his queen. Queen c1, knight takes, and then d1. But maybe it's nothing. Just a silly idea. Hitting g2. But I like the knight on e4. I probably wouldn't have given that knight up so easily. Was there some way to move the knight instead and trade pieces? So, hitting the light squares on both sides of this f2 pawn. The white king is getting lured out on the board, I think. And if you can take e2 and knight takes d4, it should be over. But where is the killer? Is there a killer move? But queen d8 for white. Knight takes, king takes. The king will hide on e8. And blitzbullet found a nice finish there. This is a very strange opening by white. Black just seems a lot better here. And actually knight takes d6 looks best. Bishop here seems dangerous. But this looks excellent as well. We had a suggestion here, queen d8, but this is actually nothing. Bishop c7 and you can just take here. So what, black seems safe. And what was the finish here? Queen e1. Pretty. Let's have a look at this opening. This looks more normal. Early h5, but this doesn't have quite the punch. Black is lacking a pawn. This is not as good as the Zixen idea of early c5 and trade a pawn on d4. With the extra pawn, the attack on the h file is more dangerous, I think. Hi there, Steel Commander. Good for you. Swedish is very useful. So White has a very simple idea here. He just wants to take the pawn on h3. Notice that capturing is not compulsory in this game. You can also just ignore your opponent. And how to meet this idea. Very good. And I don't think Fumitoks is so happy here. You need to just bluff your way through here. Yeah, take on f2, play pawn g3, but it's simply not enough. Why I like Crazyhouse so much? Well, I used to play Bughouse a lot, and I was very good at Bughouse. But I'm too old and too slow to be playing Bughouse. So I turned my attention to Crazyhouse instead. Actually, taking on f2 seems sort of dangerous, I think. Maybe White is contemplating king d2, bishop takes c3, something like this, just to get away with the king. Yeah, put the pieces on the board, tie up the black army. You don't want that knight landing on e3. Bughouse is played on 2 boards, and whenever you capture a piece from your opponent, you give it to your partner who can put it on the board. How old I am? Well, take a guess. How old do I look? That wasn't good. And now you need to put a knight here. And then you can take it and play knight at e3. Oof, this is ugly. Meanwhile, the black king is super safe. Using the pieces on the board. A lot of things hanging here. Threatening to win the queen. You threaten the rook in the corner. Blitzbullet on the ropes again. The white king is just too unsafe here. What black's king can run and hide. The bishops are just controlling everything on this board. I kind of like the idea though that Fumitoks will win this tournament, because I seem to recall I have a 4-2 lead against him in my previous encounters. So that's something I could brag about. I look like 51. I am 51. Maybe you Googled it. You cheater. So you don't have anything but your queen to put on b3. Oh, this is nightmare. An absolute nightmare. Pawn c2. 3-1. No, 3-2. Fumitoks. And I like white here. I still like white. But I'm not sure about this. Bishop at g6. I thought white was okay here, but apparently this is just too dangerous. And somewhere around here, white just blundered. White is okay here. He's on his way to safety, but then he dropped the bishop on a4, and that was just over. Yes, I am 51. You were correct. You have won a color TV. I'll mail it to you. Welcome everybody who's watching. I saw Patrick is online. Nice to see you. Kul att se er. So blitzbullet is in familiar territory here, playing the kingside fianchetto. This is the usual defensive setup with the knight on g8, then play h6. He knows this line like his own pocket. Well, Steel Commander, I am your father. Just kidding. Because it's impossible. So what's happening here? White has a pin. He managed to maneuver his queen to h4, and this is kind of dangerous, I think. Black setting up his own pin. And white just building up pressure. Nice rooks here. Weird little... Okay, so white is just giving up queen for... what he thought was an attack, but I'm not so sure. I suspect black will give back the queen here. And what is the material count? It's equal. So I suspect that this is pretty much equal. Or is this pawn formation hurting black, maybe? Yeah, I'm a very funny guy. While actually managing to squeeze something out of this position. Black soon sitting with the pieces in his lap. And white still with this impregnable fortress and an excellent knight here on f4. Controlling most part of the king side. You could pick up a pawn maybe if you're greedy. Because you're vacating this square here where you can put a pawn and then pawn f7. I'm not sure what you're referring to by the new generation being sensitive. Well, you made a great run in the qualifying stage, PKNM. I was very impressed by your play there. Just reaching the candidates is very strong. Black actually closing in here on white. Are you referring to some particular person when you're talking about the new generation? If you're talking about Hans Niemann, I think he's an absolute dick. Maybe he'll be suing me now. But sorry, Hans. It's allowed to think that someone is a dick. Well, maybe the new generation is too sensitive. And speaking of sensitive, there's a knight check on g3. Knight at g3. Pawn takes, knight takes, bishop takes f2. And This is looking bad. The queen is just taking care of everything. So he preferred to set up this little battery instead. You have knight f, but this is mate. Okay, but well, I guess it was winning anyway. White was doing so fine here. How did blitzbullet manage to break loose? He's very passive here. I mean, white has everything in this position. But not anymore. Fascinating turnaround. That's what Crazyhouse is all about. Great comeback there by blitzbullet. It's 3-3. Yeah, Luft is great, and white had a shortage of Luft. Why do the English Chess Society use German words like Zugzwang and Luft? It makes absolutely no sense. Although I have to admit that Zugzwang has a certain feel to it. So I suspect that white could just ignore the threat here to the knight and maybe play something like pawn f5 just to secure the knight in the center. Give up the knight for a pawn. You already got a pawn on c4. But what kind of words does the English language use otherwise than in chess? Can you give me an example? Yeah, but Angstgegner, that's chess-ish as well. How about knight takes and bishop takes and queen takes? I would be ready to give up my light square bishop just to get the queen to e4, which is a very dominating position. Maybe take on e4 now. Knight takes. Is it too dangerous? Maybe it is. Yeah, but then you're... it's way back. I mean, the Normans invaded England in 1066. So obviously there you have a lot of French words. And it's a Germanic language, so obviously you also have some German or Germanic words as well. As you have some Scandinavian words. We were there. Looting. Did you really want to take the knight? Wasn't the pawn on d5 more important? I sure would have liked to have one extra bishop participating in the defense. And that knight was just not very aggressive on b5. Yeah, and also actually queen takes h4 is a very interesting theme in a lot of positions here. Just to get rid of one defender. So you want to open the F file somehow, pinning this knight. What a murky position. Actually, the word chess itself seems a little bit odd, because in German and in Swedish it's Schach and Schach, which is the old Persian word for king. But chess seems like a whole other concept. So I suppose you need to play... But wait a minute, there are very dangerous things happening here. Queen h1, no. Knight h3, knight at h3, bishop takes queen h1. Everything comes with a check here. But the knight is covering. Maybe pawn h3. But what about knight d7 now? Was knight d7 nothing? Well, this is certainly nothing, less than nothing. Yeah, well, I'm sure the Turks got the word from the Persians. So no wonder. Fumitoks 4-3, but what happened there? This was just a bit too aggressive, it seems. You need to take g6. And then the knight on e4 is just hanging. Oh, thank you so much. How was this? Oh, knight h3. Looking bad. Well, here white was just losing, I suppose. But there was a point here. Yeah. Bishop takes d5 instead. Looks way better than what he played. Actually, white has a position then. Bishop takes d5. But when he took on b5, black is just superior. In command. Sorry. What's happening here? Something completely different. Black giving up a piece. And Maybe Fumitoks got lost in his own opening preparation here. This seems dangerous. Yeah, have a nice day there, Hercules. Black has such a grip here. Just picking up that knight. Knight checks everywhere. And by taking here, Black actually has some ideas here on the 7th rank. You can probably just leave your queen hanging. That's not a big threat. Or was it? Because now there's some problems here on the dark squares. I don't like the way this weakened the dark squares. And this black king is not getting anywhere. If white can get his hands on a knight, so that's why black is plugging a pawn here on e7. Wow, what an audience. Nice to see you all. Don't forget to subscribe and to follow my Crazyhouse channel. So if the queen takes, bishop takes the knight, knight f6, picking up the rook. But watch out, because bishop takes, let's say, queen takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, knight f6, queen takes. You have knight g2 after that. Is that dangerous? What a mess of a position this is. Normal chess. What is normal chess? I do know how to play a game of chess, and I do actually play quite a lot of bullet, not so much blitz, but bullet on lead chess. And I played a lot of chess when there was the pandemic. I was doing quite okay. But then I got a high RD, and I played some time when I was drunk, so I lost 200-300 points. Oh well. It will grow back. So you really wanted to put the knight here on g2, or maybe a pawn. And with the bishop protecting e7, knight f6 mate is a threat. And there's just no way. Because king d7, knight c5. Trying to get some luft for the king. Is he heading in this direction? I don't know how to win a game of chess. I prefer to play without increment so I can flag my opponent. That's the only way I know how to win. Actually now, bishop at h4 check at some point could be a problem, or maybe simply just picking up e2. And here's the Luft for you. Getting some Luft. And is the king safe? Is it safe? No, it's not. Damn. Blitzbullet, you almost made it. Black is fine here. Just castle short. This was a mistake. Because giving up the queen is not a big deal here. But this is a big deal. Pawn e7 was the best try. And I just don't trust this for black. Taking on f1 was the best move. And this was possibly the final mistake. Oh, there's a good move here. How is this good? Ah, this is neat. And then take here. The rook on a1 is hanging. But it's not super clear, is it? Yes, it is. Minus 45. And this is good for black. But he made some super error in this position. Yeah, just take c3. Like this. Look. And black is winning. The king is safe. Oh. Instead, he made a huge mistake. And white found pawn g5. So at least Fumitoks isn't losing this match. And what to make of this? Isn't this just very good for black? Or am I hallucinating here? Because the white king is so insecure. Yeah, he suddenly found the groove here. I mean, queen takes, bishop e5. It's crushing. So maybe Fumitoks will win the candidates. Katask doesn't participate in the finals, and Fumitoks is the world champion, and I can say I have a 4-2 advantage in my encounters with the world champion. I withdraw from the world of Crazyhouse, claiming I'm the best ever player. Which is completely untrue. I'm such an old has-been. Well, this is a problem. I mean, black could just take on g3 here twice at any given moment. Take g3, play knight e3 check. There are so many moves he could play here. Pretty much hopeless. And meanwhile, what are the white pieces doing on the queen side? Absolutely nothing. Black could maybe play queen g5, followed by knight e3 check, something like that. Actually, queen g5 now. Why not? And it seems Fumitoks agreed. Why not? And it does seem very tempting just to maybe take h5, grab the pawn on g3, knight e3 check. Because with this bishop defending, there's just no way black is getting mated. So, I don't know, maybe take somewhere, take d3. And if the rook moves, you can take d3 and knight f1 check. Yeah, just pick up a knight. Maybe taking b5 was even more effective because you threatened the queen then. And Fumitoks is just crushing. This is utter humiliation. e1 queen. Knight e2. And then just take the knight. Because the knight was defending g3. Oh well, this is winning as well. So one possible move, the next move, queen takes f1 with the idea bishop takes and rook at h1. A lot of ideas to toy with here for black. You could also take g2 and rook f2. And here simply take f1 with the queen. Leave both your queens on prise. And blitzbullet resigns. Congratulations to Fumitoks, who's winning big in this match. Hi there, Chuck. Who else is here? Morlock is here. Any of my students here? You should be studying, not watching your teacher stream some ridiculous Crazyhouse. Maybe a6, b5, put the bishop on the long diagonal, it's open. I teach mathematics at high school. You could opt for b6, bishop b7 here. Also maybe just make a run with your h-pawn. And I would just leave it there. Why bother taking on c3? Bringing the white knight out with tempo. I would have pushed the h-pawn, I think, instead. Oh, this was the idea. Just to weaken e5. Maybe this is good. This is probably very good for black. Yeah, excellent position for black. My bad. So when the queen takes back, you're hitting the rook, hitting the bishop, hitting e5, hitting just about everything. And if white does nothing, black could maybe play knight c2, forking the rooks. So this is over. Well, how do you guess? It's a mystery. I suppose you could leave the bishop. Maybe go for the rook and then pawn f3. Pretty close to mate then. Pawn f3. Well, now there's a direct threat. Black is threatening queen takes b1, queen takes, rook h1 check, king takes, pawn takes, knight h3 mate. Maybe even take with the king. So do you go rook at b8 or what do you do? Another way to do this would be take with the knight here, queen takes, and simply rook c8. Then you can maybe castle and pick up the pawn here, pick up the knight, and it's over. I'm not sure white expected this move, because now it seems quite hopeless. What a hero, this knight. Going back and forth. And, oh, he fell for a trap. Oh, the last trap. And Fumitoks got the last word in this match. Knight at h5 is actually quite dangerous. And I mentioned this. Black should have taken with the king instead, avoiding any tricks with the queen takes b7. So this is actually... We had this suggestion from the audience, but possibly... Yeah, it's not so easy. Pawn b7. It's actually good for white. And this is actually bad. And we have a forced mate here. Yeah, of course, this is the right move. Like this, and knight takes, king takes, pick up the rook with check, and then the attack is... just a fantastic attack here. Like this. And this is mate. White has 2 rooks in hand. And Fumitoks found it. And Fumitoks wins 7-3, and I think he's gonna win the candidates. Let's have a look at the overall standings. I'm not sure if they filled in the result yet. Have they? Nope. But when they do, Fumitoks will have a firm lead at the top with 70% still, because he got 70% in this match. And who does he have left to play? Mugwort, Master Tan, Legion Destroyer, Clearcast, Zixon, all tough matches. He could lose to any one of those guys. Let's see if we have someone we can raid, maybe. And who can we raid? Zaraza, here we coming. Thank you for watching. I'm sending you to Zaraza of the Brain, the Russian Crazyhouse player. Bye bye.